we have over 220,000 illegal migrants living in our city. And now with Trump coming back, and he talks about mass deportations, hallelujah, thank God.
Can you talk a bit about the issues that New York faces with immigration and crime?
Yeah, that's been going on now for 2 years. And we have been, just because of our sanctuary city and our sanctuary state status, we rolled out the red carpet for what was, crossing the border, the southern border. The southern border has been neglected for 4 years, since Trump left office. It started really then, because he had what was called a stay in Mexico part of his building of the wall, whereas they would have to stay in Mexico, be vetted, then come in the right way. Now, everybody should have borders. Borders is what keeps you secure. So when you open up the borders and flood it, we're not saying don't come to New York, don't come to America. What we're saying is come in the right way. So through this influx of non-vetting and our Border Patrol officers actually working as a concierge service, we've had gangs. They've emptied out the jails in Venezuela. You know, when people hear that, they think that's an exaggeration. That is not an exaggeration. And what is going on here in New York right now, we have over 220,000 illegal migrants living in our city off of the taxpayer dime. Free meals, free schools, free motor scooters, just run down the gamut, and everything they get for free on the backs of the taxpayers. We've had the kids going to school. They've never sat in a classroom before, so we have problems now in school. They speak, I don't know how many different dialects. They're trying to cater to all of these illegals. Keep in mind now, these people are here illegally. So when we talk about the crime, we have over 54,000 of that 220 that we know about that have been picked up for felonies, convicted of felonies, and now with Trump coming back and Tom Homan in charge of our new border, our new borders are, and he talks about mass deportations. Hallelujah, thank God, because now he's going to hit these sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. We call them blue states, blue cities, that are run strictly by the Democrats, the radical left side of the Democratic Party, zero common sense. And he's going to come into our city, and he is going to find the convicted people, reinstate ICE, and deport them. We're not banging down doors on innocent people. We are going after the worst of the worst.
But it looks like the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, who is a Democrat, he says that he wants to cooperate with the Trump administration, with Tom Homan, and he's actually being criticized by some on his own party for saying this. Do you believe him? Why is he saying he's going to cooperate with Trump?
You know, as a city councilwoman, I've worked very closely with the Adams administration. I'm a Republican, and that's a no-no here now. You know, if you are not a Democrat or a radical left Democrat, his own party is eating him alive. So now for him to say he's going to cooperate with Tom Homan, good for him. I believe him, because he does not like, he's born and raised New York, born and raised in Queens as I am. He knows what it's like to be a police officer. He knows what it's like to watch a police officer get shot point blank range in the head by an illegal immigrant. He sees what's going on with rapes and everything else. He doesn't like it. So if Trump is reaching out an olive branch, I truly believe that he had a clarity in his head that said, why am I catering to my own party when they're trying to, they want him gone. Let me do what's right. And what's right is to stand up for the people of the city that he represents, and to hell with the progressive left. He said it yesterday.
There are some who on the left who say, well, actually, Eric Adams is facing legal issues. There's obviously that's a very complicated case, but he's basically trying to position himself to get a pardon from Trump. And this is all a cynical tactic to try and flatter Trump in order to get that pardon. Do you think that he's being that cynical?
No, I do not. No, I do not. I got to know Mayor Adams. I got to know his first and seconds that are around him. And I have to say, I think this is something that Eric's been meaning to say for a very long time. But as most Democrat, common sense Democrats, they are afraid, literally afraid, to go against their own party. You know, there's always that next rung on the ladder that you want to climb. In his case, re-election. In a lot of the politicians' case, it's always that next step. So I think he tried to work very hard with the progressives. I know he has. And with the city council on a whole, there's 51 of us make up the city council, and he tried, only to get smacked down time and again, not just by our city council, but by our governor, Kathy Hochul. Kathy Hochul has been a detriment to the state of New York since she took office 4 years ago. And she's up for re-election in 26, and when she's 3 years ago. And when she's up for re-election in 26, she's going to be primaried with what I hope will be a great Republican or a moderate Democrat that has a spine. You see, we talk about Democrats, moderate, common sense. Problem is they lack the spine of leadership. We need a real leader now. We need a leader at the state level as well as the city level. And in order to do that, you know what? The pendulum swings both left and right. You got to find the middle ground between left and right, and you've got to learn how to work together. The progressive radical left doesn't want to hear the center. They just don't. It's not, and he wasn't left enough for them, and he's suffering the consequences of that.
A couple of years ago, I was in New York City making a film about crime, and I interviewed some NYPD officers, and they told me, do not go on the subway with all your camera equipment. We were even threatened in the street whilst we were walking very close to Times Square, people threatening us to try and get our camera equipment. You know, the atmosphere was pretty scary, frankly, being in New York City. Maybe that was just a unique experience to me, but can you just explain to people perhaps who haven't been to New York what it's like just walking around, just being on the subway, being on the metro? Do you kind of experience crime regularly, or do you feel safe?
I personally will not go on a subway. For reasons being, you see what's happening with Daniel Penny, right? Are you aware of the Daniel Penny?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that.
Okay. I came out very hard, very strong, right out of the gate, that he's a hero. And this is a young guy, 24 years old when it happened, 26 today. And the jury is deliberating right now as we speak. And he was brave enough to take down a crackhead, a guy who was convicted multiple times, I think 44 times. And because our DA does not believe in law and order, you got to understand, New York City has become the wild, wild west, and in some cases, with our immigrants, we have become a third world country in a lot of ways. And what you went through in Times Square, I apologize for that. But our police are doing their very, very, very best while being handcuffed by our city council. They put their life on the line every single day. Daniel Penny did that same thing on the subway car. He was a former Marine, and he did not, he brought him down in what they call a chokehold, but he did not in any way, shape, or form use that as a chokehold. All he did was hold him down with the assistance of two other people. If he wanted to kill this guy, he could have killed him. Now, just to show you how politicized the DA's office is and race baiting the DA office has become, the DA, the ADA who did her closing arguments, she made it sound that Daniel Penny got on that train. Well, he was already on when Jordan Neely got on, and he took his earbuds out, and he had to do what he had to do because Neely was threatening. Yet the ADA made it sound that Daniel actually wanted to kill this man. No, fact be told, if he wanted to kill him, he could have killed him in 2 minutes, a second. But he didn't. All he wanted to do was restrain him. He did. He used the form that was known to him, that he was taught as a Marine, and he held the guy down. He suffered injuries not caused by the chokehold, by other health-related issues.
So in your mind, this case wasn't to do with race or racism?
Not at all.
And if the jury does find Daniel Penny to be guilty, what do you think that says about the judicial system in New York City?
Our judicial system in New York City is a joke. In Manhattan, it's a joke. We're broken up into 5 boroughs, okay? The DA in Manhattan has his first day in office. He went down a list of everything that was considered a felony, from rape to certain degrees of murder, and he did away with all of them. All of them. And that's why we have what's called a turnstile system here now. If you get arrested, illegal migrant or a New Yorker, you're released within 3 hours. So here the cops go through all the trouble and paperwork and their own lives on the line to arrest these people, only to get through the system within 3 hours. Before their paperwork is even completed, the police, their paperwork is completed, the felon that they just arrested is already back on the street. And they do it in your face. They're unapologetic for it.
And just one final question. I know today that a very, very prominent CEO of a huge healthcare company was murdered in New York. Can you just react to that case? What do you think that says about crime in New York?
Well, it's shocking. I mean, I think this was, I don't know enough to speak of it, Stephen, just yet, because I just heard about it maybe 20 minutes ago. But coming from where I sit, and I think a lot of us sit, I think it was a targeted attempt, an assassination of his. But again, I don't want to speak out of turn. So that's still a very much, this is an investigation that just got started. It literally just happened. So it's something that I really cannot speak to with any sort of authority.